I've teamed up with Clubhouse Golf for a series of videos to help you upgrade your game. Now, if you're trying to copy these impacts, you're probably ruining your ball flight and ruining your game. For 99% of golfers, these impacts don't work. There are loads of videos on YouTube talking about the perfect impact, but nobody is talking about what we're going to discuss in this video. I'm going to hit a 7-iron and I'm going to basically try to emulate the perfect impact that we see all of those pros getting into. The impact that you're often told is going to be beneficial for your game. Let's go ahead and hit one. Now that strike felt phenomenal. Struck the ground after the ball, and when we look at the data, pretty good. Okay, my attack angle was 3.6 down, my launch angle was 13.6. That's not a million miles away from where these really high-end pros launch the golf ball. But look at the ball flight. Look how low it was. My apex was 33 feet high. That was so low. If I'm going into any green, that's not going to stop at all. I'm not going to be able to play the golf course well because my ball flight was so low. Let's just quickly look at what creates the ball flight in its simplest form. If we had 3 shots that all took off at the same angle, but each of those 3 shots had 3 different ball speeds, what we would see is that those 3 shots would climb into the air for a different amount of time. The one with the lowest speed would therefore peak and drop out the sky sooner, and the one that had more speed would climb and rise for a much longer period of time before it drops out the sky. Therefore, we would get 3 completely different trajectories, we would get 3 completely different apexes, and ultimately we get 3 completely different ball flights. So if you have a different amount of speed in the golf ball, which ultimately comes from a different amount of speed in your swing, you have to have a unique impact to marry up with that speed. If you have a slow swing speed with slow ball speed, and you have a Bryson style impact, you're going to find the game incredibly difficult to play. I'm now going to share with you 2 drills that are going to help you get the perfect impact for your swing. And then we're going to head to a studio, because when we're talking ball flight, there is something else we have to consider that plays a huge role in your ball flight, but is often overlooked by so many golfers. This first drill I call the Flamingo Drill. So ultimately, think about ball striking as your club moving around your body on a basically big circle. If we want to strike the ball perfectly, that circle at impact has to be to the point where the lowest point is target side of the ball over here. That's a non-negotiable. Here's how you do it. I'm going to use 7-iron. Mid-iron is absolutely perfect for this exercise. You're just going to take a normal setup, and then I'm going to keep my lead foot where it is, but I'm going to go up onto the toe of my back foot. So all of my weight is on my lead foot. This is here for a tiny bit of support, but it's not really taking any of my weight. What you'll notice now is that when I sort of set up the golf ball, look how much shaft lean I've got, a significant amount. Notice that I am in front of the golf ball. That's going to set my circle target side. This is how I can learn, possibly for the very first time, what it's like to make contact with the golf ball where the low point of the swing is target side of the ball. So let me show you how to do it. You take a setup as normal, you go up onto your lead foot, back foot is there for a tiny bit of support, and I'm just going to simply make a swing and land the club target side of the ball. So you can see just how low that ball flight was, but have a look at this. There was a divot that got taken after the golf ball. Now, clearly this is not the biggest divot in the world. We see much bigger divots when we watch golf on TV, but it shows me that I landed the club target side of the ball, and that is the key to ball striking. So that was a perfect example of that drill working exactly how it should work. Let's categorize your swing into 3 categories. You can have a high swing speed. That's kind of where the pros are. Then you've got a mid swing speed, and then you've got a low swing speed. So here's how we set this drill up. If you are a mid swing speed player, when you take a normal setup, you're going to bring your lead foot a little bit closer to the ball before going up onto your foot. Notice now how I've got slightly less shaft lean and I'm slightly less in front of the golf ball. So I'm still going to get that ground contact after the ball, but I'm going to have less shaft lean. If you are a player who we categorize as a slower swing, so maybe low 70s, maybe in the 60s with a 7-iron, what you're going to do is you're going to bring your lead foot right close to the golf ball. So when you set up, you've got even less shaft lean and you're even less in front of the golf ball. We're still setting the circle target side, but we're doing it different amounts based on your swing speed. So if I've got a really low swing speed, I'm going to be setting up here, and I'm going to be doing the same little exercise. And you'll notice how that ball flight was fractionally higher than the first one. That's exactly what you want, because that tells me that I still landed the club target side of the ball, but I had less shaft lean. So that drill becomes more specific to me if my swing speed is maybe in the 60s, maybe in the 70s. This one I call the Lie Detector. I don't think there's a better drill out there to help you with your ball striking. I've just used 2 alignment sticks, and I've used some dry shampoo to just spray a white line onto the ground. Then I'm going to place some golf balls on that white line, as you can see. Now, for every golfer, as we said, it's a non-negotiable that your circle has to be target side of the ball. So when we hit these shots, we do not want any contact with the ground behind this line. Your club has to make contact with the ground, and it has to be target side of that line. However, what that looks like will depend very much on the speed that you have. So let me go ahead and hit a couple of shots. This first shot, I'm going to try and do at my normal speed. Okay, so how did we do? Well, if you come and have a quick look at that, in terms of strike, that was, I would say, maybe an 8 out of 10. You can see that my contact point probably started just prior to that line. So it could have been a little bit better. However, it wasn't bad on the golf course. That's going to be pretty functional. But look at the size of the divot. My club clearly went into the ground, took a divot and came out of the ground. So that for me is kind of what I'm looking for. I get to see how well did I strike it. That's why this is called the Lie Detector, because there is no hiding. And I can see what kind of interaction I got with the ground. So on this next one, I'm going to try and do the same thing. I'm going to try land the club target side of the ball. However, I'm going to try and swing this much slower, down in those kind of low 70s. And what we're looking for is a different interaction with the ground. Strike. Felt great. Have a look at that. This is exactly why this drill is so powerful. This was better than the first one in that example, because I landed the club exactly where I needed to, right on the line. You can clearly see that I've landed my club target side of the ball, but look at the difference in the divot size. Much shallower, much smaller, which is exactly what I need for that speed. Equipment. It makes a huge difference to your ball flight. You are about to be blown away by how much you can influence your ball flight by the equipment that you use. This is, as a golfer, the easiest way to change your ball flight, because you don't require any swing changes. So this is the P7MB. I'm going to hit that with my shaft, which is the X100. Then we're going to keep everything the same. Same shaft, same grip, same spec, but change it to the QI head and see what the differences are in the ball flight. So let's pull out a couple of numbers with the MB. Launch angle on average was 17 degrees, and apex on average was 91.9. Then if we look at carry, you can see it's 181. So now let's put the other head on and see how those numbers change. So what numbers did we get from the QI irons? Well, let's look at launch angle, 15.6. That's significantly lower than we saw with the MB. Why is that the case? Well, this club, as standard, has lower loft, so we'd expect the launch angle to be lower. However, look at the apex, 101.9, significantly higher than I saw with the MB. And when we look at the carry distance, average 197, so a significant jump up in distance from this iron. So what does that tell us about these two heads? Well, lots of talk about loft. On paper, this club has lower loft. But what we see in terms of performance is the QI head, the larger, more oversized head, is going to apex higher. It's going to be an overall higher ball flight, and it's going to give you more distance. So who's that going to suit? Well, it's going to suit those golfers who have slightly lower speeds. As we said right at the start, when you have a lower swing speed, your ball drops out the sky sooner. Therefore, you often don't get the ball flight that you require. So something like the QI iron, the bigger head, is going to give you a higher overall ball flight, and it's going to help you work towards the handle being more forward impact, so we get the best of both worlds. So now we know the head design plays a huge role in the ball flight and how it influences the ball flight. What about the shaft? Well, we're going to take the MB head, we're going to put it on my X100, and then we're going to put it into a graphite shaft which is designed to hit the ball higher. Let's see what the difference is. Those differences, incredible, and it was visible in the ball flight. So the X100 is designed to launch it lower, but when we put the graphite shaft in there, designed to hit it higher, a little lighter, We saw the launch angle go up by about 2 degrees. We saw the overall apex go up by a huge amount. So changing the shaft with the exact same head completely changed my ball flight. So again, certain golfers are going to fit into certain club shafts. As a high swing speed player, you might be better off with something X100. But if you're down in the high 60s, low 70s, and you're trying to get your hands forward and you're using an X100, zero chance. But putting something like a graphite shaft in designed to increase the launch, increase the height, can help you with your ball flight, but also help you strike the ball better. So how do we summarize everything we've covered in this video? Well, let's talk about impact. What creates perfectly struck iron shots? It's when the handle is forward at impact and you've got weight forward. What that does is it reduces the launch angle. So if you're someone who's got a slower swing speed, this impact might not be the best for you. You might work better with something which is a little bit closer to vertical. However, that might compromise your strike. So what you can do is you can work towards an impact with the handle is forward, which really helps you strike it. And then you dive into maybe some varying clubs, hybrids, maybe some different shafts, maybe some different heads to get you that height back. It's all about creating the right ball flight for you, which is functional, allows you to land the ball on the green, carry hazards, and actually play the golf course. So if you want a perfect ball flight, you have to consider your impact and you have to consider the equipment that you play.